This is Legacy of the Drought by R.A. Salvatore. It's a story set somewhere around the lives and times of a good drow, or dark elf I think they're also called, but this guy's name is Drizzit. This wasn't his first story, and while it was kinda standalone, it did reference a lot of stuff in the back, and I wouldn't have minded starting at the first one. But that's more of a me thing. I didn't know where to start, so I just picked up this one in the box set. I'd show you the box set, but it's used, the rest of the box is being used to prop up the camera. I'm very amateur here. But this book follows the Dark Elf as he gets attacked by his evil sister and his friends, a barbarian, a dwarf king, and a lady with a magical bow that shoots like exploding arrows have to go help him. There is also in this book an evil assassin who wants his revenge on Drizzit. I think the assassin, I don't remember his name, but he got bested by Drizzit. Now, this book is part of the Forgotten Realms, which I think is a D&D setting, kind of like the Dragonlance books I tried to read. Unlike the Dragonlance books, which I will eventually try again, this book I liked. Unlike the Dragonlance, and I don't want to keep comparing to this, I don't want to shoot down people who like Dragonlance. I just like this one better, but I got into the plot quickly, and the prose I thought was a little better. I'm picky with my prose, but that's another tangent. I thought Mr. Salvatore did a really good job adapting the game mechanics into the world. While it was still a little rough, it didn't seem nearly as forced as I thought it was in Dragonlance, and in my humble opinion, the plot and characters were better, so that the rough edges I didn't really mind. Speaking of characters, I really like Drizzit. He's a wise and powerful ranger who ran away from his land because everybody there was evil. The story was set way after he left, and he had managed to prove to the people above ground, because the drow I think live underground, kind of like dwarfs. I am not into the D&D or whatever mythos of how all the creatures go, but Drizzit managed to prove he wasn't evil. While having Drizzit be a drow wasn't the main part of the conflict in the book, I think he proved himself in the past books. It did touch on in Reflections, and to talk about the races and the creatures in it, I thought was very well done. It wasn't forced, and it was just like a natural thing they'd think about. I thought it was interesting how fantasy can mirror real life, but kind of lower the stakes and make it easier, and the little thought, it was just a really nice touch. Because if you think about it, how would, if everybody else in this entire group were evil, and this one guy isn't, how different and interesting that would be, how people would react. It's just a really cool premise. I did really enjoy the story, and I will read the others eventually. I think there's a 4-box set of this one, and I might have more in boxes from the basement, but I'll get to that eventually after I finish up a certain 1,300-page novel by a certain author that was just released. I'd show you my copy. I got one, but it's also used to hold up. Funnily enough, with that, I've had to use like half the amount of books. But anyway, that said, this book was no means perfect. While I liked the characters better than Dragonlance, they seemed a little stilted. I don't exactly know what I don't like about them, but other than Drizzit, they felt a little bland. Maybe I just needed to read some of the previous ones and get a little bit more to know them, but there's some like character stakes conflict, and I really didn't care. All the other ones, it's just like meh. They didn't seem as well realized as Drizzit. The plots also seemed a little too rushed and a touch melodramatic. Again, that could be because I'm not connected to the characters from the other books. And also, honestly, if you look at the book, this was Wizards of the Coast, and recently I've heard some stories about working for IPs, and they have some strict limitations, so maybe they just said, you have to write this within 300 pages or so, and he didn't have time to expand it, or maybe he just rushed the book because of deadlines. I don't know, it seemed a little rushed. All in all, I don't want to get too negative though, because I really like this book. It wasn't like the most amazing book I ever read, but it was a good book. It's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's just me or other people, But for me, there's like different classes of pizza. You have like the frozen pizza you buy from the store, and then you have like your homemade pizza. And in all ways, technically, the homemade pizza is tastes better. It has fresher ingredients. You know where the stuff comes from. It's baked fresh. The crust tastes delicious. You can just put everything you want. But sometimes you just want to get the frozen pizza from the store. And that's what I kind of think about stuff. There's like tiers. Legacy of the Drow is like a really, really good frozen pizza. Well, something, let's say, a Brandon Sanderson book is more like a homemade pizza, if you understand that. They kind of set up to do different things in my mind. The authors or the cooks might not have minded, because I'm pretty sure the frozen pizza people would love to be able to go up against a homemade pizza or even a pizza you get from a restaurant. But you can't. In my mind, they're entirely different flavors, and I like each of them, and it's kind of the same with this. Now, where do I put it, like, out of 5 stars? That is tricky. I honestly don't know where it is, because this isn't the best. Is it better? Is it on the same tier as Tolkien? Is it on the same tier as Brandon Sanderson? Is it the same tier as, like, some things I really, really like? Not really. So I really can't give it, like, if 5 stars is Tolkien, I'm not sure this is 5 stars. It also isn't, like, really bad. I want this author. I know R.A. Salvatore is perfectly stuffed. He doesn't need reviews by people. But here's the thing. I have a thing that I've been thinking, and this is the bait and switch on this video. The review system we use for books is fundamentally broken. Let me explain. So I can throw up some things on the screen, but I don't have a screen sharing, but I can show you some pictures. So here's the thing. I was looking at book reviews the other day, and if you go to Goodreads, you have usually it's like 60% or 5 stars on a given book if it's like a good book, and then you have like 50, 60 or 5 stars, and then you have like 20% that are 4 stars, and then you might have a couple 3s and 2s and 1s. Sometimes 1s is higher than 3s and 2s. Sometimes 3s, it goes like a little bit more 3 and then some 2s and some 1. And I noticed there's 2 kinds of book reviewers. There are the people who consistently say, it's amazing, 5 stars. And then the people who say, amazing, no problems, 4 stars. And they kind of feel how I feel. Well, yeah, this Legacy of the Drow is really good. This, I'm sure you can think of other books. This book was really good, but it's not good as Tolkien, or it wasn't as good as the Mistborn books, or take your pick. So they give it 4 stars. And the problem with that is, then it puts it like it's a bump down on average. And actually, I'm sure if you talked about it, the people who give 5 stars and the people who give 4 stars, and when the 4 stars have no criticism, the people who have 4 stars have no criticism, the people with 5 stars have no criticism. They're actually, they both think it's roughly the same tier. They just have different expectations. And the people, there's 2 different scales. And this really skews the stuff, because you go in a story and it might have a lot of, it's not full 5 stars, because a lot of people are like, it's good, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I know for a while my mom had an Etsy shop, and drove her nuts when people was like, great, 4 stars, because it showed up on like the aggregators 4 stars. And most people, because 60% give 5 stars, they see that 4 stars. It's like, okay, this is a pretty good one, but there's some problems. And then they might be some hesitant. And it's the same with books. You have to really scroll down into the reviews and look at the breakdowns to actually see. But if I just looked like The Legacy of the Drow, or even Mistborn, it'd be like 4.6. And I'm like, okay, so it's a pretty good book, but it's not perfect. And then I might say, I actually want to read this. It skews it a little bit weird. I would fall into the group of people that's like, this is great, but it's not the greatest. 4 stars. Except I know that, like, statistic-wise, it looks bad. And I don't think that the people who give 4 stars realize that. They're like, of course it's 4 stars. It's not perfect. But the majority of people are not on the same wavelength as we are in terms of how much reviews. So are there ways to go about this? Well, you could up it, so, like, out of a 10, I would easily put the legacy, like, a 7 or 8. 8, of course, I would probably assign a ton of things, 8 or 7s or 9s. You would probably, unless I disliked it, you'd probably not get anything in less than a 6, and 10s and 9s would be reserved for things I really enjoy, but that would give you more granular control. But you'd still have snobby people that are like, oh, it's not a 10. 10's Lord of the Rings, 9 is Sanderson, 8 is whatever, and so they keep shoving it down lower tiers, while everyone else is, oh, this is amazing, 10 out of 10. And if you granularized it down to like how much out of 100, that's way too much thinking, because is this a 75, or is this like a 72, is this a 69? You get a lot more control with the problem. There is one solution for this, and the more I think about it, the more I really like it. And that's what Steam does. I know Steam, online game platform, we like books, not video games. But what they do is really cool. They have two options. They have recommended, which you have a big thumbs up, and then you have a don't recommended, which is big thumbs down. And those are the only two options. You can either recommend the game or not recommend the game. This recommended way removes a lot of the granularity, but it stops all the people who are like, oh, it's not a 5. 5 is Tolkien or whatever, but you have two options. Good, you'd recommend other people, and you wouldn't recommend people. And that's how I like to think of books of recommend and not recommend. Of course, I probably don't engage with my books and think about them as critically as I should be. I'm sure I'll be working on that. I have a literature class next semester, and I don't think I'm going to get out of that alive without thinking critically about stuff. But I really do like the recommended, not recommends. And you still have like the statistics, so like you have overwhelmingly positive, mixed, negative, and mostly negative. And then still you can judge about how good it is, because if it's a mixed book and some people recommend it, some people might not, you're like, okay, there's 50-50 chance I like it. But if the more recommendations, it's kind of like the star list. But you don't have the thing where 60% of the people say it's the perfect book ever. But of course you sacrifice some of the specifics. But I think it's better, partly because I can't imagine how stinky it must be, especially if you're a little author. If you have a couple Goodreads reviews, and then snobby people read your stuff and it knocks it down from a 5-star to a 4-star, and they still think it's great, the 4-star people, but the majority of people are like, uh-oh, this is not the most perfect book. Maybe I shouldn't buy it. Maybe I should get this other book I've heard a lot of things about, other than taking a chance. And something like this would kind of fix that. I don't know how you could implement it. I don't think you could without launching an entire service or something. But that's just how I think about books. So, Legacy of the Drow. It says The Legacy. I've heard it called The Legacy of the Drow. Thumbs up. I like Drizzit. It kind of makes me want to replay the second Baldur's Gate game a couple of times, because apparently you can get into a secret area where you can play him as a character. But that's a tangent. I just found that thing cool. I liked that game. But Legacy of Drow, thumbs up, recommend. If you just want a frozen pizza thing, if you want something really intellectual, or highbrow might not. But if you are trying to binge read a series that's kind of big, like Wheel of Time, stick one of these in between the books so you don't get burnt out. I have a video about that. And these are just short, quick, good. I liked it. I'm going to read the others. Thank you for watching this video. Sorry it's been so long. School happened, and I probably won't be able to review as frequently. I do want to get a review on the Sanderson book when I finish it, but I'm taking my time on it just because I want to enjoy it. I do really like Sanderson stuff. And have you read the Drizzit books? Is there a better place to start? And I might see about starting there. Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching. Bye.